And we're back. You're listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the International Business Growth Radio. Folks, I have been interviewing Brandon Allen, the founder of New Work Revolution, here today. And we've been talking about a lot of really great things. We talked about the importance of understanding your leadership game and how that game is played and really how you can know if you're on the right track or not. We also talked about the glue that holds leadership together, which is relationships and how to build that and some of the challenges and frankly opportunities around that. And so as we get back into this next section here, before we kick off, I want to remind you can go to exitologybook.com, download the first chapter of our book, Exitology. If you like what you see there, there'll be an opportunity for you to take the rest of the journey with us. And with that, Brandon, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been talking about a lot of really great stuff here today, and I wanted to pivot our conversation slightly and from our perspective. So let me set the stage here with the exit situation. Here's the challenge that privately held businesses have. It goes like this: 80% of your wealth is likely trapped in your business, statistically speaking. Furthermore, if there's 40 people in a room and I walk into the room and everybody raises their hand and says, I want to exit my business in the next 2 years. Here's the numbers. I'm going to walk back in that room 2 years later and say, who's happy? There's one person left that's happy, kind of in the corner, shyly, saying, I'm happy. There's 7 people who've exited their business and they're experiencing profound regret. And then there's 32 who haven't. So that tells you that there are some root challenges and some changes that you might have to make in your life to successfully grow and then eventually exit your business. And so setting that stage of sort of an outside, here's what's happening out there in the world, but also knowing that you can take control of your life and you can change and control yourself, right? And change the outcome for yourself. What does it look like from your perspective? You work with these business owners and get in their head all day long. So how do you get to the root of challenges? How do you actually create change that lasts? I mean, there's so much to unpack here. This could probably be a 5-hour conversation.
Oh man, it really could be. And I'm going to pander to the kids here for a minute. I'm going to quote Taylor Swift, who once said that Band-Aids can't fix bullet holes. And
yes.
In business, right? I don't want to lose anyone that's blue collar here with that Taylor Swift reference, but what we look at in business is we always think that we're one tool, one piece of technology, one employee, one marketing plan away from solving all of the problems that exist in our business. And I run ads on Facebook. Do you know what I sell people? I sell them tools. I offer them tools. Mm-hmm. Because if I tell them, hey, let's walk through a transformational process where you're going to work through some of your deepest, darkest fears and secrets, like no one wants to have that conversation. So they're like, I'll pass. But if I tell them, hey, here's a 6-step checklist to do X, they're like, oh, I'm in. That's what I'm missing is a checklist. It's not. Now, checklists are helpful. Processes are helpful. Consulting is helpful. Plans are helpful. All those things are useful. But if we don't get to the root of what is it that gets in my way from doing these things, then the change will be short-lived. And all of us can think of things that we've done. For instance, let's just use diet and exercise.
Yeah.
You could do a keto plan. You could do some other kind of plan like Whole30 or something like that. And it'll work short term. Long term, what happens is people rebound. They usually rebound much further and farther than they were before. Yep. in the wrong way. And it creates problems. And the reason why is people aren't really addressing, well, what got me here to begin with? Like, how did I get to this place? What am I missing? And so I always, there's a quote, this is a biblical quote. So hopefully this isn't too offensive. It's from Proverbs chapter 20, verse 5. It says, the purposes of a person's heart are deep waters. Mm-hmm. One who has insight draws them out. And our hearts are deep waters. Why we do the things that we do are often left undiscovered. Mm. And so I'll give you just a quick example of how this looks in the real world. I had a diesel part seller. Like he was an online seller of diesel parts for different pieces of equipment.
Yep.
It was a 40-50 million dollar business. They were a fantastic business. But I'm on this coaching call with the CEO and his wife, who's the head of HR, and he said, Brandon, I had this thing happen to you. I wanted to talk with you about it. He said, hey, I had someone fill out a review during our review process, and they turned in the exact same form that they did the year before. In fact, he's like, it looks like a photocopy of the one they did last year. Mm-hmm. So in their review process, they give their employees, these are executives of the company, a questionnaire to fill out. Well, the guy turned in the exact same one that he did the year before. He's like, Brandon, what do you think about that? I'm really concerned about this guy. I wasn't concerned about that at all. What I was concerned with was, why did he think that he could do it? So I asked him, what do you do with these questionnaires once they fill it out? And he got quiet. And he said, Brandon, I don't do anything with them. And I said, okay. I said, so should we get rid of him because he didn't do this the way you wanted him to? Or should we apply his ingenuity and realizing that I don't waste time on things that are unnecessary?
Right.
Right. So he thinks about that. And I said, let's find out what's really going on here. So I said, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm always a fan of these questions. 10 being that you're wildly crazy about doing reviews with your employees. Like you're just really pumped about it. 1 being that it's like the worst thing that you could ever do. I said, how would you rate your enthusiasm level towards this thing? You thought about it for a second. He was a 4. His wife was also a 4. Now, think about this. If there's anything in your business that you're a 4 out of 10 at and you're not very excited about, even if you're a 5 or a 6, you're likely not going to put a lot of energy and effort into that mentally because your brain has already told you that that is a thing that is not good.
Yeah.
So I said, let's go deeper. What is that about? And to make a long story short, we got to the root of his past experience with either getting a review from other people or giving them has largely been pretty negative.
Right.
So he has this mental resistance towards doing reviews. Now, here's why I bring this up. What happens is someone describes a problem. And then because we're smart leaders and we're smart people, we go right into let's fix this problem. Let's address the issue. And we're like, well, what you need is my 10-point plan on doing an employee review that doesn't suck and that everyone loves. And step 1 is this, and step 2 is that. And we get to step 10, and then there's a unicorn with a pot of gold, and everyone's happy and we're hugging. That is not the reality of the situation. You're going to go to step 1. You might do a little bit of step 2. By the time you get to step 3, your brain is creating the mental resistance that, hey, this is bad. Don't do it. You scrap the whole thing. You think Brandon's an idiot, and there's no pot of gold that's possible at the end of this review process. So I'm done with doing it. If you don't address what is getting in your way and the real true obstacle that you're facing in the situation, no amount of templates, tools, processes, or ideas is going to fix that problem for you. You'll continue to struggle in that particular area.
So if you're speaking to a leader who maybe I love the example of the diesel guy, because what we see happen a lot of times in these businesses is because you're very engineering minded, you're very tactile, right? You're doing the built environment, right?
Yes.
And so I also love that you called back to Proverbs, because we actually had a previous radio show here about the whole David and Goliath story and what that really means and stuff like that. And the people who have done the built environment, I mean, that goes back to the days of Solomon. He was building temples and stuff. So Proverbs, always fair game on this show. But the point of that is because it's wisdom that's been applied for 5,000 years. And so I love where you're headed with all this. But if you find yourself in this situation where you've been so comfortable on the one hand, sort of dealing with and building the external environment and all this other stuff. So I just do the checklist. I do this. I'm an engineer. Da, 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 da. How do you start to open that space in your life? Like, how do you even get started if this sounds like here's the pushback. It'll go like this. Wally, Brandon, that sounds like woo. That sounds like woo-woo horseshit, right? Like what exactly, it's not, but if that's what you're thinking right now, how do you crack that open?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's the thing. You can do all the right things in life, but for the wrong motives, that ruins the entire intention behind doing the thing to begin with. So, for instance, like I can take my wife out for a date, but I
Mm-hmm.
could be on my phone the whole time and not say one word to her. Now, if people asked me about it, I could tell you, well, I take my wife out for a date every week. Now, what I don't tell them is that I ignore her every time I take her out. Or I could get her flowers and just throw them at her and say, here's your flowers for the week and walk off. Now, if someone asked me, I could tell you what a romantic I am and I give her flowers every week, but the intention behind it maybe isn't right. Now, here's the thing about checklists. If you're doing what you're doing right now and it's working for you, then keep doing it. Who am I to tell you to do something different if it's working? I'm not. In coaching, that would be the last thing I would want to do.
Yeah.
But if something's not working for you, the question is, what is it that you really want? And ask yourself that question. What is it that I want? And get really specific about this and address the fear that comes from answering the question of what do I want? Because most of the time when we answer this question, there's some fear that creeps up like, oh, shoot, what do I want? Oh my God, I don't even know if I want to tell you what it is
Yeah.
that I want. And then look at what is keeping you from getting there. And that's the only conversation that you need to have is that, hey, if I'm doing all these right things, but I'm not getting to where I want to go, what else could be getting in my way? And most of it is we have knowledge, we have tools, but it's something else that's getting in their way. And to be clear, I'm not against tools or knowledge. I use those in my coaching all the time. I think tools are great.
Right.
But if you have a hard time using the tools, that may be a time to get real and have a deeper conversation with yourself about what's getting in the way.
Well, I really appreciate you opening that up for the group because it reminds me of a saying, and it's the best GPS in the world can't help you if you don't know where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the GPS obviously being the tool, but if we don't know the direction, if we don't know what we want, if we don't know where we want to be going, then all the tools in the world are useless. So I, I
100%.
think I think that was a really great segment. I appreciate it, Brandon. Go ahead and tell everybody where they can find out more about you, and then we'll take a short 2-minute break here on the International Business Growth Radio Network.
Absolutely. Go to newworkrevolution.com. We got a lot of good stuff on there for you, a lot of free tools, resources, podcasts, all that good stuff. So go check it out.
Awesome. All right. We'll be back with you here in 2 minutes. You're listening to the Exitology Unlock Your Profits, Unlock Your Potential show on the International Business Growth Radio Network.